What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zev, and welcome to the Rehab Christian Center Tuesday night experience. I'm so grateful to be here with you tonight, and so grateful that you have joined us and tuned in for a life study. And certainly hopeful that your week is off to a tremendous start and has been as blessed as mine has. My week has been tremendously blessed and tremendously busy. It's just Tuesday, but it's been a blessed week so far, and certainly hope that your week has been blessed as well. Listen. I got another doozy for you tonight. I just went ahead, when I put it out, when I was going to be teaching, I just went ahead and said that this is going to be a part one. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. It's going to be a series. There's no way I'm going to get through all of this material tonight. This is definitely going to be a part one, but this is going to be a very, very, very powerful series. We're going to be teaching on the consequences of excuses. The consequences of excuses. And, people might want to tune in tonight. They're going to be glad they did tonight. We're going to deal with this at least this week, next week, and maybe the week after. The consequences of excuses. And it's going to be a very powerful lesson. And I'm excited to be here with you to share it with you. And so grateful that you've tuned in. For some reason, my Facebook, YouTube camera looks a little cloudy. My Instagram looks crystal clear. But it's good to be with you tonight, and certainly hopeful and again, prayerful that you had a fantastic week so far. So let's go through the networks. I do not want to waste any time. I want all of my 55 minutes tonight, all of my 50 minutes tonight. I don't want to waste a lot of time at all. I want to get into this message tonight, this lesson, this series, so that we can get through part one of the consequences of excuses. It's going to be powerful. And you're going to be glad you tuned in tonight. As always, you're going to be the smartest person at the water cooler all week. And we have some just powerful message to share with you to lay a foundation for what will be at least a 2, maybe a 3-part series. All right. So Facebook, good evening to you. For those of you that are tuned in on Facebook, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. If you're on Facebook, do me a favor. I want you to like this video. If you truly enjoy our content, our ministry, I want you to hit that like button, hold it down, turn it into a love button, hit the share button, hit the @ symbol, and tag 5 of your friends and tell them to tune in tonight. We are excited to be here with you and excited that you've joined in with us. And so if you're on Facebook, hit that like button, hold it down, turn it into a love button, hit the @ symbol, tag 5 of your friends, and tell them to hop on tonight for life study. I've got a 40-minute lesson that's going to blow your mind, the consequences of excuses. And it's going to be powerful. It's going to be practical, as it always is. And this is part one. And again, Facebook, we are glad you have tuned in with us tonight. Instagram, good evening to you. Those of you that are tuned in via Instagram, thank you. Welcome tonight. And thank you for tuning in. If you have not already, make sure you say good evening in the chat area. Speak to everybody. It's rude to come to church, even if it's virtual, and not speak. And then if you're on Instagram, I want you to fill it up with hearts. Let me know you're tuned in. And then not only that, I want you to hit that @ symbol Instagram and go down your friends list and tag somebody that might need this message tonight. Maybe you got a best friend, a brother, a sister, a husband, a wife, a daughter, or a son that makes excuses in their lives. This is going to be a very powerful, practical message that you can apply to every area of your life. And I promise you, you're going to enjoy it. Hey, Sister Lenata, it's so good to see you. It was great to catch up with you. What was it, last week or a few weeks ago? But listen, I want you to share this video, fill it up with hearts, say good evening in the chat area, and invite some people to jump on tonight, because I wanted to start on time so I could end on time. But I can't wait to teach part one of this series, the consequences of excuses. All right, it's going to be powerful. Thank you for tuning in Instagram, YouTube. Good evening to you. Those of you that are tuned in via YouTube, thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you're on YouTube and you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel. If you have not subscribed to our channel, that sounds like the smoke alarm. Y'all hear that for the first time, you hear it again. I can't make this stuff up. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Hit that subscribe button. You can find us on YouTube if you have not subscribed by going to YouTube and in the search bar typing TheREHABCC. That's TheREHABCC in the search bar, and our channel will come up. Make sure that you like our channel, subscribe to our channel, and I want you to hit that bell notification icon, so you can be notified of when we go live. And just so grateful again for you tuning in. If you're tuned in via YouTube, and again, I want you to share this video. If you're on YouTube, we have a lot of people that tune in that are not on traditional social media. They tune in through YouTube or our website. So I do want to welcome you tonight to the broadcast, and thank you for tuning in on tonight. All right, let's get into this. If you have not shared this video, yes, yawning, I'm exhausted. It's just Tuesday, man. It feels like it's Saturday already. It's been a very busy 48 hours, and it's going to be an even busier remainder of the week. But grateful to be here tonight, and so grateful that you all have tuned in. Now, let's get into this tonight. I'm going to deal with part one of the consequences of excuses. That's the consequences of excuses. Part one tonight is what I'm going to deal with. And I want you to go ahead and type that in the chat area. Put it in the chat area. Tonight's subject, the consequences of excuses. Put it in the chat area quickly. The consequences of excuses. Put it in the chat area. And I want you to put the topic there so that as people tune in, they will know what we're dealing with and what we're talking about tonight. I'm not going to give you a biblical text tonight. We will pick up. There's another, y'all. Excuse me. We will pick up with the biblical text and reference on next week. So I'm not going to give you a biblical text tonight, but we are going to deal with the foundation of the topic. The consequences of excuses is what we're going to deal with. I want you to type it in the chat area, and again, help to create some notes there for people that are tuned in that are maybe working, driving, so that they can follow along what's going on. Now, I want to deal with this topic for this main reason. I do, as many of you know, I do a lot of coaching and counseling aside from just rehab, pastoral work. I do a lot of coaching and counseling at a university. I've been in the higher ed system for a while. And then I do a lot of coaching and counseling through my own private practice. And I will say to you, I cannot tell you the number of times I've had conversations with people along the lines of improving their lives and making necessary changes in their lives, where the topic of excuses does not come to the forefront. And either it comes to the forefront as a topic or it comes to the forefront as a theme, right? It either shows up as a topic or it shows up as a theme. And so we want to deal with this tonight because I've got to challenge all of you to recognize a very important truth. And this truth is simple. And that is that anytime you lead your life with excuses, you will never maximize your full potential. Okay. Anytime you lead your life, I want you to record this. This is your first note for tonight. Anytime you lead your life in excuses, you will never reach your full potential. Okay. Anytime you lead your life in excuses, if you allow your life to be led by excuses, you will never reach your full potential. And it's unfortunate, but it's true that we are, in fact, living in a time where people find it more convenient to make excuses for why they aren't where they should be, why they haven't accomplished what they should have accomplished, or why they haven't achieved what they should have achieved. People make more excuses about their situation, about their circumstance, than they do take ownership. And I struggle with that a lot. My next social media live on my personal page, which I thought I might do this week. I don't know. I may wait until next week. It's going to be a big one. And I've just really been just trying to gather my thoughts. But I'm going to spend some time talking about accountability and ownership because, you know, it annoys me. I'm just going to be frank with you. It really annoys me in this day and time how many people we have that simply don't want to own stuff. They don't want to own nothing. They don't want to take ownership for their life. They don't want to take ownership for where they are in life. They don't want to take ownership for their credit. They don't want to take ownership for their relationship situation. They don't want to take ownership for their kids. They don't want to take ownership for nothing. And many people live in a stance or from a stance where they think life is happening to them and not realizing that life happens through us. I've said this so many times. Life does not happen to you. Life happens through you. And the only way you understand that is through the lens of ownership. And people who fail to take ownership be people who are masters at making excuses. And, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Tonight might be a little rough. This next, 35 minutes might be a little rough for some of you. But let me just say this to you and say this candidly. not only is it dangerous to not own your life and to allow your life to be led through excuses, it's dangerous then to connect with people who allow you to do it. And that might be equally one of the larger, just challenges I have with this, just this generation and time we're in. It's one thing for you to be wrong. It's another thing for you to be connected to people who know you're wrong and they allow you to be wrong. Okay. It's one thing for you to be out of pocket. It's another thing for you to be connected to people who know you're out of pocket and they allow you to continue to operate while you're out of pocket without saying to you, Zeb, Mark, whatever your name is, you're out of pocket, right? So this accountability thing and this ownership thing I've discovered is way bigger than just individual ownership and individual accountability. Many people feel comfortable making excuses in their lives, not only because they don't take ownership for their own lives, they are surrounded by people who allow them to not take ownership for their lives. And if you're anything like me, I'm only responsible for Giselle and Ford. That's it. I ain't taking accountability, ownership for nobody else's drama but my own and my kids. That's it. And unfortunately, so many people live in a space where they just allow not only themselves to be bullied by excuses and the lack of ownership and owning things in their lives for what they are, but they also are connected to people that they allow to live in that space and live in that way. And then we wonder why people aren't as successful as they can be. We wonder why people don't reach the potential that they could reach. We wonder why people fall short of being everything they have been designed to be. We wonder why people don't maximize their full potential in their lives. There's been a lot of narrative in the news, and I'm not going to use the church platform for this. I'm going to talk about this on my personal channel with Kevin Samuel's passing. And, I've got a lot of thoughts about it, but let me just say this. I want to just offer you this. Say what you want about him, make what you want of his message and what he said. One of the things that I completely admired about his message was his willingness to challenge people to take ownership. You ain't gotta like it. You don't have to like it. He challenged people to take ownership for their lives and their situation. Throw how he delivered the message out. Throw, what he's, some of the crazy stuff that he may have said sometime. Throw that out. Take the message, the meat, throw out the bones. He challenged people to take ownership for their lives. And what he really revealed is something that I know as a trained researcher. My PhD is in generational studies. My dissertation was on a generational studies topic where I studied millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Xs. And one of the things that I know to be true through verified research is that this generation we're in is one of the most sensitive generations that have ever existed. You can make whatever argument you want to make. You can make whatever excuse you want to make. This is one of the most sensitive times we have ever lived in our entire lives. And I can prove this easily. I'm going to just give you one example, and I'm going to save the rest for my personal live. I don't know if I'm going to do it this week, this weekend, or next week. I'll let everybody know. If you follow me on my personal channels, you can check it out. It's going to be the longest live I've ever done, and it's probably just going to be on YouTube. And I'm going to talk about this, but this generation is sensitive, and he revealed that. Take what you want from Samuels. He revealed that. And I'm going to give you a quick example. How many of you remember the show In Living Color? How many of you are old enough to remember the show In Living Color? All right. If you are, I want you to put the little raised hand emoji up. All right. If you're old enough to remember the show In Living Color, I want you to put the little raised hand emoji up. Okay. If you remember that show. Anybody remember that show? I see a few hearts coming up. I might be showing my age. I do have a somewhat young church. So some of you youngsters might not know what In Living Color is. Okay, they're good. There's a few. Good. In Living Color, right? If you remember the show In Living Color, listen. On that show, Keenan Ivory Wayans, who was the father, he has his son, Sean Wayans, Damon, is several of them. But if you watch that show, who did they pick on? Everybody. Black people got picked on. White people got picked on. Gay people got picked on. Straight people got picked on. Rappers got picked on. Politicians got picked on. They picked on retarded people.
This, don't let me lose you. Listen to me. They picked on retarded people. They did a skit, I believe they call Handyman. Damon Wayans played a retarded boy, right? Who was supposed to have superpowers, who literally would fall out of the window. You know, when he was going to take off, instead of Superman flying, he would just fall out the window. And we would be at home crying, laughing. That show never got canceled. In fact, that show was one of the highest ranked comedies during that time, sitcoms. There were certain shows that came on certain nights. It was that show. You had Martin was clowning everybody. Didn't matter what your race was, your sexuality, he was doing it. And guess what, y'all? It was all cool. It was all fun. Today, you can't talk about nobody without people signing petitions wanting to get you off the air. Now, you can say what you want to say. This has a lot to do with what we're dealing with as it relates to excuses and accountability and ownership. People make excuses for their lives because they don't take accountability for their lives. They don't take ownership for their lives. And more than that, we're in what you've heard this popularly said, cancel, what they call cancel culture, which means if you say something crazy, they'll try to cancel you. They'll try to silence you. And this thing is I've really been battling with this depth, not because I agree with everything he said. A lot of what he said, the majority of what he said was absolutely spot on. You can say what you want to say. But I've been battling with this depth because it's so much in so many ways reminds me of me. And when I think about the work that I try to do in this church space, I was laughing with somebody earlier today and telling them, they were telling me, saying, Zeb, well, I know if don't nobody else say it, if no other pastor ain't gonna say it, you will say it. I love having that reputation. Now, there's a price to pay. I don't preach at a lot of convocations no more, not because I can't, but because people don't like to hear the truth, especially a truth that doesn't convenience them. And a truth that conveniences you is not the truth. It's just something that itches your ears and tickles your ears. And this is all biblical. The Bible says in the last days that people would have a proclivity to want to believe a lie before the truth. So churches aren't struggling, not because they can't do a praise break. I mean, you go to YouTube and just type Black Church Praise Break, you'll be watching clips for months. Churches are struggling not because they can't do a praise break. Churches are struggling because people don't want to hear the truth, or preachers aren't telling the truth, and people don't want to come to church to hear your fairy tales. You hear enough fairy tales at work. You hear enough fairy tales at the family reunion. People come to church because they want to hear it like it is, especially concerning their own lives. Why? So that they can be better. That's called ownership. That's called accountability. And so people who live in this excuse space tend to be people who don't own their own lives. And so I want to put out a challenge to all of you tonight. Not only do I want you to take ownership for your life, but I need you to start forcing the people in your circle to start taking ownership for their own lives. Y'all stop letting people make excuses for themselves about where they are and where they're not. Learn how to tell people the truth about their situation to the extent of the knowledge that you have, and stop letting people walk around and make excuses when they really could be farther along than where they are. Right? This excuse thing is really about taking ownership. And we all have to take on. When you take ownership of your life, it's hard to live in the space called excuse. When you take ownership about the path of your life, it's hard to live in a space called excuse. People who are living in this space called excuse tends to be people who do not take ownership for their lives. They point the finger at everybody else. They're quick to blame everybody else. They're quick to say that their life will be a whole lot further if whomever else didn't do whatever. And while there could be some element of truth in what you say, at the end of the day, when we don't take full ownership of our lives, we will never live to the full potential of what we could be. And I long for a day. Say what you want about that man, say what you want about anybody else. I long for a day where our society is more like an In Living Color, or more like what most of us grow. Take parenting, for example. And this ain't even in my introduction. Let's just deal with parenting. Most of us, were not only just raised by our parents. Who else raised you? The folks in the neighborhood. Folks in your neighborhood raised you. In fact, you could come home, get off the bus, and your folks not be home, and you can't get in the house. And what would the people in the neighborhood do? Hey, come on down here, Zeb. You do your homework down here. Come on in the house. You hungry? You want a snack? Folks in the neighborhood raised you. People in the neighborhood corrected you. If you were in the street and they were coming down, and you want to be one of them bad kids that ain't want to get out the street, they will slow their car, roll down the window, and tell you, hey, boy, get out the street when we come down the car, and dare you to say something. Not today. You know why? Because people don't value accountability. People don't value ownership. And it's not only for their own lives, but they don't value ownership over the lives of other people. And we see that, and it's translated into how sensitive this culture is that we're living in. It's sensitive times. I mean, sensitive. Okay. And so we've got to learn how to take ownership, not only for ourselves, but then rebuild that sense of community where we can then help other people take ownership for their own lives. And when you do that, then you don't have to worry about your parents being around all the time, or folks that you know being around all the time. People genuinely will look out for others and genuinely care for others when there is a community of ownership, right? I want to challenge you, and I want to record that. I want to challenge us to build a community of, I like that. I want to challenge us to build a community of ownership. And listen, you can't build a community of ownership without the truth. It's that simple. You don't build a community of ownership on lies. You don't build a community of ownership on not telling the story for what it is. You build a community of ownership by being honest. And people who make excuses not only don't believe in ownership, they lack honesty. See, your relationships would be a whole lot more solid if the person you were in a relationship with, y'all did less smashing and did more talking and had honest conversations about your challenges. That's honesty breeds growth, not only just in individuals, but even in connections with others. If you want to see honesty in spaces, or if you want to see growth in spaces, introduce honesty. Introduce difficult conversations. This is one of the things that has made our ministry so popular and such a pull for people, especially non-traditional people. Why? Because we talk about honest stuff. And I give you honest takes on stuff that most churches and pastors would not dare do. Why? Because it's honesty that frees you. Ain't this fairy tale stuff you hear? Ain't this stuff that people say to try to make you feel better about yourself? It's honesty. Some of us need to walk in a place of honesty, because when you build a community of ownership, you build a community of ownership through honesty. All right. So let's just start there. We're going to deal with excuses and not making excuses. We've got to make sure that we in our lives. I don't care if you lie to every, and this is going to sound bad, but so I want you to hear the context of the whole statement that I'm going to make. I don't care if you lie to everybody you meet. I could care less. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I don't care if you lie to everybody you meet. You better learn how to be honest with yourself. You better at least learn. Let me take that back. You better at least learn how to be honest with yourself. Because when you are honest with yourself, you are building ownership with you, and that ownership will then trickle to those things and people and connections and relationships around you. You know, a lot of people are out here trying to challenge everybody else to be honest and, you know, trying to keep it real with everybody else, and they ain't kept it real with themselves. You gotta keep it real with yourself. And people tend to have a problem with honesty, which is why you have a society full of people making excuses. If I hear one more young person tell me what the man has done to them, I'm going to scream. I'm going to scream. Yes, I'm well aware of the fact that racism exists. Yes, I'm well aware of the fact that prejudice exists. I've been a victim of all of that too. I'm well aware of it. But let me tell you something. At a certain point, you got to realize that at the end of the day, if you're going to be successful, sometimes you just got to go after it. Stop making excuses and own what you're trying to do. Own your life, own your business, own going back to school, own your family, own your children. You have to own stuff. And it's hard for you to own anything when you live in a space where you're not honest, not only with others, but first and foremost, you're not honest with yourself. Let me give you this tonight. I want to give you this. There are three things that excuses are often the result of. All right. I'm going to share this with you tonight. And then, I've already got 7:35. Life study flies on Tuesday. But I want you to start sharing this message. If you haven't tagged anybody, I need you to tag somebody quickly tonight. I'm telling you, they're going to be glad they tuned in if you do it. Excuses are often the result of three things. And I want to share these three things with you quickly. All right. When we think about excuses, underlining rather, the excuses that people make are typically three reasons why they make them. All right. And here are the three reasons why typically people make excuses. All right. This is what I'm going to give you tonight. You're going to be the smartest person at the water cooler all week long. The three reasons why people typically make excuses are this. Reason number one, fear. Reason number one, fear. I'm going to give you three reasons why people typically make excuses. Reason number one is fear. A lot of times, people make excuses about their lives and about doing great things in their lives, advancing to great spaces in their lives, trying new things in their lives, branching into greater spaces in their lives out of fear. There's a real, and I'm not joking on this because it's true, and I've actually had to live through this. I've lived through this personally. There's a real, in our society, there's a real fear of failure that a lot of people really experience. And I don't know if any of you would be honest enough to admit it. But I can honestly admit that for a season of my life, I had a real fear of failure. And there were things that I would not try, not because, I didn't have the ability to try it or maybe didn't even have the opportunity to try it. There are a lot of things I didn't try in my life, honestly, because I was just afraid I was going to fail. And many people, I appreciate you admitting that, my friend. Many people, if you're honest, can admit, like me, sometimes it's fear that causes you to make excuses, right? You had the ability to start the business, but then you start coming up with crazy stuff. Well, this ain't a good time, or let me get my finances together, or nobody's gonna want to buy the product that I'm selling. So you start talking your way out of, and let me just use this as an example. You start talking your way out of starting the business and coming up with all of these reasons that really aren't reasons, but are nothing more than things that are disguising your fear. And I found fear to be one of those things that oftentimes causes us to make excuses in our lives. I would go back to school, but I'm too old, right? That's one I hear a lot in education. I'm too old to go back to school. I'm too old to learn. I'm too old to write papers, blah, 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 blah. No, the reality is you're scared you're going to get back in school. You're not going to finish. Or maybe you dropped out of school before and now you're afraid that you're not going to go back and then completely get it all done. That's the problem. And you don't want to say that out loud, but that's what fear does. Fear, I like that. That's good, Zeb. Fear causes you to look for the scapegoat every time. Fear will cause you to look for the scapegoat in your life and look for a place to place blame or reason for not doing what you want to do. And I like that, Jade. She said, not only that, but then it leads to complacency, right? So when you are fearful, you'll find yourself being very lax and laid back. Oh, I got time, or I'll deal with it another time. Or maybe when my money gets better, I'll start the bit. Listen, I've discovered this. There is rarely a good time in your life. There is rarely a good time or a perfect time to accomplish anything significant in your life. It never works that way. Most of the things that I've accomplished in my life that were significant came at the most inopportune times, meaning the timing wasn't perfect. The money wasn't completely lined up. Things weren't completely lined up in my family to go back and get a degree or do whatever. Typically, the things major that I've accomplished in my life have come at times that were not convenient to me, right? And so fear does cause us to loathe into complacency, and it causes us to use our reasons, those reasons, as excuses to stay stagnant and not move forward. Okay, so I found that to be one of the major reasons why people use excuses. Here's the second one. You ready? The second reason is doubt. Okay. Reason number one, fear. Reason number two, doubt. A lot of people don't make excuses in their lives because, frankly, they just don't believe in themselves. And let me tell y'all something. I want to just say this loud and clear. I don't care how much people believe in you. At the end of the day, if you don't believe in you, all you're doing is wasting our breath by believing in you. I'm going to tell y'all a pet peeve that I have. And I don't know, I put it up on my social media stories today. And I don't know if I'm getting old or senile or what's going on with me, but I find myself just getting easily agitated by sometimes some of the smallest things. And they're not major things. One of the things that really annoys me and agitates me is when I believe in somebody and I'm like, look, man, you can do this. Look, woman, you can do it. You got everything that it takes. You know, you need to do this, and I'm going to help you do this. You know, Lord knows if I say, hey, I'm going to help you do this and support you doing this. And after I've done all of that, they come back and hit me with, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm smart enough, Dr. Zeb, to go back to school. I don't know if I'm smart enough, to start my business. I don't know if I'm good enough for somebody to marry me. I don't. And you just spent 12 minutes hyping them up, telling them you believe in them, telling them you support them, telling them they can do it. You just spent 12, 15 minutes hyping them just for them to turn around and hit you with, I don't know if I got what it. Nothing annoys me more. And it is a reminder that you can believe in people all day, but if people are operating in self-doubt, there is nothing you can say to a person who doubts themselves that will ever cause them to pursue what they need to go after. I want to say that again. There is nothing you could ever say to somebody who operates in self-doubt that will cause them to pursue the things they should go after. If a person don't believe in them, I don't care how much life you speak into them. I don't care how much you encourage them. You can pull them out in the aisle and shout with them. None of that matters if a person does not believe in themselves. And so along with fear, I've discovered that people operate and tend to walk in doubt because they allow the way they see themselves, their abilities, their experiences, their preparation, whatever they possess, they allow the way they see those things to get in the way of them being the best version of themselves. You cannot let doubt get in the way of the larger picture of you being everything you've been called to be. And again, I'll say this loud and clear. Y'all stop gassing people up who ain't gassing themselves up first. Now, look, there's a caveat to that. Hold on. Let me put a pin here. Hold on. Let me put a pin here because there's a caveat to this, and I want to be very clear here, and I want to be fair. It's a caveat to this. I'm not talking about when, and insecurities are really good too. You on fire tonight, Jade. I like it. I'm not talking about those of you that have had to push people beyond their comfort zone, right? This is what mentors are for, right? When you have good mentors, one of the values of having a good mentor, a good leader, a good pastor, somebody in your life is that they should be able to see things in your life beyond where you are. They should be able to see your potential beyond where you are. They should be able to see what you possess and be able to say, hey, Zeb, you got everything it takes. Carlos, you got everything it takes. Well, Nick, you got everything. Jade, you got everything it takes to go after whatever. That's the job of a mentor, pastor, some type of teacher, an example in your life, right? To sometimes see things in our lives that we don't see. I'm not talking about that, right? Because that falls under the norm of having mentors who are doing their jobs, right? Seeing what in our lives, what we can't see in ourselves, pushing us and encouraging us so that we can go after those things to become everything we're supposed to be. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those of y'all who are out here trying to encourage people who know they got the ability, who know they got the experience, who know they got the credentials, who might even have had the experience and done certain things before. And you just out here pushing them. And frankly, they living in doubt, or like Jay said, they're living in insecurities. They're living in fear. And all you're doing is wasting your energy. Wasting your energy. And you can't do that. right? Giselle and Four and I were outside shooting ball the other day. I think it was Saturday morning. We're shooting ball, and Giselle was really beating herself up. She kept missing. We have this little drill where you shoot shots, and when you miss it, you come in for a layup, and whoever got the rebound, they start shooting. Right? It's a typical drill if you've ever played basketball. Anyway, we're out there playing basketball. Me and Ford does it all the time. Basketball is his sport. Gymnastics is Giselle's sport. And Giselle's just beating herself up because she can't make a jumper, and then pass it to her. She comes to the layup. She makes some of them. She misses some of them. She's just beating herself up. And I said, Giselle, you have to beat yourself up. You got what it takes. You had a good first basketball season. She played for the first time, was a defensive stopper. They couldn't even get the ball past half court. Her gymnastics, her agility, her conditioning was just too much for them kids her age, male and female. She was whooping them all, had them all mad. Right? And she's a real dog on defense, right? You can do defense. She's not a great shooter. She's never played. So I said, Giselle, stop beating yourself up. You never played basketball before. Meanwhile, when Four missed the layup, I said, dude, how many more layups you gonna miss? Oh, come on, Dan. I'm just having a bad day. No, you're not. You missing layups. See the difference? One has played ball. One, that's his sport. The other one, she just out there. I mean, she ain't played it seriously. They're two different levels of motivation and encouragement. And I'm going to use the G word, grace. And to correct somebody on the use of the term grace, I think it was Sunday. It was two different uses of the word grace, because the grace that Giselle deserved was not the same grace that Four deserved. Basketball ain't Giselle's sport. Basketball is Four's sport. So when you missing layups, I'm looking at you like, dude, what you doing? Y'all get what I'm saying? And so the same thing applies when we are dealing with people who have doubt. I get it. For me to have Giselle's kind of doubt in a space where I've never been before, and I don't even know if I got the ability, and I've got a coach telling me I can do it, is one level of grace. It's one level of motivation. But if I've been there before like Four, I done led the team in scoring. I got video clips on TikTok. I'm talking junk out on the court, telling people they can't guard me. I'm doing all of this stuff. That's a different level of grace. So the grace that Four deserved and the grace that Giselle deserved are not the same because their experiences are different. Y'all stop letting people who have been there use doubt as a reason. Because people who have the ability, who have the talent, who have the skill that continue to use doubt as a reason are using doubt as a scapegoat that's leading to excuses. Is this making sense to anybody besides me? Okay, so that's the second reason why people make excuses. Reason one, they do it out of fear. Reason two, they do it out of doubt. Here's the third one. You ready? The third reason why people make excuses is because of the lack of accountability. We talked about this in the beginning, but I want to expound on it here. It is the lack of accountability that causes people to make excuses in their lives. People don't want to be held accountable for results. They don't. Everybody wants to get praised when they win. Nobody wants to get criticized when they flop. Everybody wants to get praised for coming to class. Everybody wants a brownie for showing up for class. Nobody wants to be ignored because they didn't win first or second place. It is a sign of the times that we live in. And again, much of this is generational. It's generational. A lot of our younger people, our younger generations really struggle in this space. I'm going to be frank with you. Now, a lot of the counseling I'm doing to older folks, 50, 60, 70, they having the same problems. You walk around here 70 and want people to acknowledge you just for showing up. When your generation should understand more than any other one that showing up is your reasonable service. And this is the case. This mentality exists because people have serious accountability issues. People don't want to be held accountable. And anybody that doesn't want to be held accountable will lean on the ability to make excuses to not only not be held accountable, but to not be measured for poor results. I was having a very candid conversation with a young man who graduated from the university a few years ago, actually with one of my coworkers about this young man. Now, I remember this young man very vividly because he used to come to our office all the time, and I used to have a back and forth with him all the time. He was a pretty smart student, but he really had a big disconnect between his smartness and the reality of how smart he really was. And he struggled with that. And I tried to tell him, I remember him being a senior. He was turning down really good offers. He was like, Dr. Zeb, I ain't taking that job. I'm better than that. My GPA says I deserve better than that. I said, yeah, but your experience says this. And you want to go in this field, and you're missing these types of certifications that would really make you an A player in these fields. And so while your school classroom performance is great, you don't quite have what it takes to be a star in this field yet. You need to look for something entry level to get your experience, to build those skill sets, to get those certifications, so that then you can become a star player, and then you can apply for whatever you want to, as if I haven't been doing this for 17 years. Okay. But no, he didn't want to hear it. Nope, I got what it takes. They gonna pay me at what I deserve, or else I ain't gonna take this. I'm not gonna do this. Okay, no problem. My job is to give you the coaching, the advice. You're an adult. You got to take it or leave it. He called the office 2 weeks ago. He's in between jobs, can't get anything steady. He's hit a wall. He wants somebody to take a look at his stuff. And one of the things that's just poignant that he told one of my coworkers is, I wish I would have listened to you and Dr. Talley when y'all tried to hold me accountable for where I was. And let me tell you something. When you don't hold yourself accountable, you start making excuses for your behavior. You start making excuses for the decisions that you make. You start making excuses for why you are where you are in your life. You start making excuses for the things you don't have in your life. You start making excuses for the things that are going wrong in your life, instead of stopping, shutting up, looking in the mirror and saying, maybe I'm not further along because I'm not doing A, B, C, D, or E. Accountability, man. Accountability is one of the arch enemies of progress. Accountability is one of the arch enemies of excuses. People who make excuses don't hold themselves accountable, and they don't hold the people around them accountable. And they tend to live very stagnant, very basic, very average lives. I like it. I'm gonna have to let you teach next week, Jay, because you are just on it. I like what she just said again. Accountability breaks the cycle. If you want to break cycles of poverty in your family, you got to learn how to hold yourself accountable for your spending. If you want to break cycles of poor relationships in your family, you got to learn how to break that cycle by taking your relationships more seriously, taking your own personal development seriously. Right? I was telling somebody this. I may have said this on the broadcast Sunday. I can't remember. I have so many talks and do so many presentations nowadays. But I was telling somebody about, somebody I was talking to who was raised with bad parents. And I told her, you're going to be a great parent. You know why? Because you're very aware of where you've come from. You're very honest about how you were raised and how poorly you were raised. And you're very sensitive to that. You've gotten some help in that area. And because of that, you take it seriously. So when you do have a kid and have a family, you're going to be an outstanding parent. Why? Because you are taking accountability to break cycles in your family, to break cycles of poor relationships between parents and kids in your family. You're taking accountability for that. You're being honest about it. And again, as I said earlier, you can't take accountability for nothing you ain't going to be honest about. If you want to be a better parent, you got to be honest about the times where you suck as a parent. You want to be a better mate, you got to be honest about the times where you suck as a mate. You want to be a better spouse, you got to be honest about the times you have sucked as a spouse. You want to be a better employee, you got to be honest about the times you have sucked as an employee, and the fact that out of 5 days out of the week, you show up late 4 of those 5 days. You have to be honest. And people struggle in this excuse space because all they do is say what they need to say, think what they need to think to make themselves feel better about the situation where they are. And all it does is keep them where they are. There's no accountability in that. And where there is no accountability, there's always an excuse. I want you to record that. This is your last note for the night. You're going to be the smartest person at the water cooler this week. Where there is no accountability, there is always an excuse. Don't ever forget it. Where there is no accountability, there is always an excuse. Always. It never fails. Show me somebody who doesn't take accountability for their life, take ownership for their lives, and I'll show you somebody who lives in excuses. Everything about them is an excuse. Everything about them is an explanation of why they aren't where they need to be, why they're not doing what they need to be. Y'all got to stop it. You got to stop. Listen, I had to get on a unit on our campus. I'll just share this really quick. I had to get on a unit on our campus who was complaining about being short-staffed. And I had to explain to them, listen, the challenges I had the last 10 months in my role, I was doing at one point 5 or 6 different jobs by myself. I never complained. I owned it, did it, kept working while I was hiring, reshaping the org, doing what I need to do, reshaping the department, reshaping personnel. I kept hiring, kept doing what I was doing, working, hiring, working, pulling 60, 70, 80-hour weeks on top of doing rehab stuff, on top of doing Inspire stuff, on top of doing coaching stuff, on top of, most importantly, being a father, doing all this stuff. And listen, I didn't make no excuses other than it ain't enough hours in the day. The only excuse I made was it ain't enough hours in the day. And people who make a whole bunch of excuses are people who fail to live their lives with pure accountability. And again, I want to say this slow. Show me somebody who doesn't take accountability for their lives, and I'll show you somebody who lives in the space called excuse. And you ain't accomplishing nothing walking around making excuses. Okay? So don't forget those 3 reasons why people make excuses. This is part 1. I'm going to give you part 2 next week. Reason 1, fear. Reason 2, doubt. Reason 3, accountability, or lack of accountability, or lack of ownership. All right. I wanted to give you that as a foundation tonight, because we're going to take this a step further next week when we talk in depth a little bit more about excuses. But I hope this message blessed you tonight. Did it? If it did, I want you to fill it up with hearts. Let me know this message blessed you quickly. I want to pray with you really quickly. As you let me know that it's blessed you, I want you to type in your prayer requests in the comments area. I want you to know every morning, 4:30, I get up, and before I work out, I pray over your prayer requests. I pray over your lives, those things that are concerning your life. And I want you to know that I'm praying for you this week. It has been an incredibly busy week. Like I said, tomorrow's Wednesday. It already feels like tomorrow's like Friday. This week is really flying by for me. But I get up every morning and I pray over your requests, and I'm going to be praying for you this week. If you've got a prayer request, I want you to type it in the comments quickly. If you've got a prayer request that we all can't see, you can email your prayer request to info@rehabcc.org. That's info@rehabcc.org. You can email your prayer request there. Put in the subject line prayer request, and that email will be automatically routed to my email address. We'll take a look at it. We always respond to those requests, and we want you to know that we're praying for you. So it doesn't matter what your prayer request is. I want you to type it in the comments tonight or email it to info@rehabcc. We're going to be praying for you all week long. We're going to pray for you tonight. And we're going to be praying for you all week long that God would answer prayers concerning your life. Listen, do me a favor. Lock your hands like this as a sign of symbol of faith, as if we're touching and agreeing. We're getting ready to pray quickly. We're going to sow a seed, and we're going to be done tonight. But I want you to clasp your hands like this as a sign of symbol of faith. And let's pray together. Let's do it. Father, in Jesus' name, I thank you tonight for your word. Thank you for this time of gathering you've given us, this time of sharing you've given us. Thank you for reminding us of the impact of excuse making in our lives. We don't want to be excuse makers. We want to take ownership of our lives. We don't want to allow fear to dominate our lives. We don't want to allow doubt to dominate our lives. We're going to walk in the courage and the strength and the self-confidence, the self-awareness to know that with you, all things are possible in our lives. So help us to move away from fear and doubt. Help us to move away from those spaces where we cause ourselves not to take ownership for our lives. And help us to embrace who we are in you, who you've made us to be. Every gift that you've given us, every promise and purpose you've given us, every vision you've given us for our lives. Help us to embrace those things so that even when things get challenging in our lives, when things get challenging and rough around us, we will always remember what you promised us. We will always remember what you've deposited into us. We will always remember every dream, every vision, every goal that you planted in our spirit. And regardless of the odds that might come against us, we will continue to press forward to be everything you've called us to be and more. Now, I lift up to you tonight, God, every prayer request that's been typed in the chat tonight, every prayer request that's been emailed to our inbox tonight, every prayer request that's being considered right now as somebody is watching the replay. I lift these requests up to you right now and ask now that you would answer the prayers of your people as only you can, that you would make ways as only you can, that you would open doors as only you can. God, that you would not only answer the prayers of your people, but that you would cause us to be excited before you answer them, to be joyful before you answer them, to walk in complete victory, knowing that everything that we lift up to you, you can return right back to us, and not only give back to us, but give it back to us more blessed than it's ever been. We thank you, God, for a week that will be filled with miracles, open doors, made ways, met needs, that you're literally going to open up the windows of heaven, pour out blessings in every area of our lives, that we won't have room to receive those things. We count these things done, and we believe you for. In Jesus' name, amen. Do me a favor. If you pray with me, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to type in the comments quickly. It is so. It is so. Come on, quickly. I want you to put it in the comments. It is so. Every time you say amen, you're simply saying it is so. If you prayed that prayer of faith with me, I want you to put it in the comments now. It is so. It is so. I want you to know that God is in the prayer answering, miracle working business. Don't you dare fret. Don't get discouraged. Don't be afraid of where you are. But I want you to be encouraged to know that God's answering your prayers, and he's doing it right now. I believe this is going to be a week that's filled with open doors in your life, that God's literally going to open up some things that have been locked up for you. He's going to make some ways that have been shut down for you. He's going to make some connections that you could not make yourself. He's going to heal you in spaces that you've been ailing for a long time. I believe we serve a God that can do all of that, and he can literally do everything but fail. And I need you to hold on to that this week like you never had before. Listen, really, really, really quickly for 30 seconds, I want to challenge you quickly to sow a seed tonight. If this message, if this ministry has been a blessing to you tonight, I want to challenge you to give tonight. You should see on your screen one of the three ways you can give. You can give via CashAPP, $, REHABCCGIVE. That's $, REHABCCGIVE. You can give through our website, www.rehabcc.org, and simply choose online giving. Or you can text REHABWORKS to 336-642-3210. That's REHABWORKS to 336-642-3210. Again, you can give via CashAPP, $, REHABCCGIVE. You can give through our website, www.rehabcc.org, and simply choose online giving. Or you can text REHABWORKS to 336-642-3210. You can give either one of those three ways, and I know God's going to bless you. Good measure, pressed down, shaking together, running over. He's going to send somebody to be a blessing to you because of the way you blessed us. Listen, I love you guys. I'm praying for you. I want you to have a fantastic week. I want you to have a blessed week, and make plans to meet me right here virtually Sunday. This is the Sunday we were supposed to go into the building, and we are still looking for a new space. We were supposed to open up this Sunday, the 15th, but we are still prayerful, and that something will come through in its own timing. We're going to be patient. It's better to have the right place than any place at all. And so I want you to make plans to meet us this Sunday virtually, 9:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at the Rehab Christian Center. And I want you to invite somebody to join in with us. We are continuing our series that we started Sunday that we didn't mean to start, but that we're there. And that is the courage to break the cycle. We started this Sunday, and it was a powerful time. You need to go back and watch part one if you did not watch part one, and then make plans to see us again this Sunday, 9:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Listen, y'all, I love y'all. I'm praying for y'all. I'm rooting for you. I want you to have a fantastic week, and I want you to make plans to meet me this Sunday at 9:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here at the Rehab Christian Center. Love you guys. Praying for you. Have a fantastic week. Peace and blessings.
For watching the Rehab Christian Center live experience. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you and you would like to be a blessing to our leader, Dr. Zeb Talley III, you can sow a seed into his ministry by Cash App at $Pastor ZT3. It is our prayer that this message of hope encourage, enlighten, and empower you to be better. Please tune in Sunday at 9:08 a.m. for our Sunday morning experience. And as always, be blessed and have a wonderful week.